Okay. So, Jeanette, it's an honor to be here with you today. I'm humbled and honored to be here to talk with you today. And you're kind of like a Rotarian for life, you might say. So, let's go back to your youth exchange experiences. Tell us a little bit about that and how you got into it and what the highlights were.
Well, the year was 78, 79 when I went away on exchange. I had heard at school that if you wanted to travel abroad for a year, apply at the office. So I just ran to that office expecting there to be a huge lineup of people. There wasn't. I applied. It was quite the process. But eventually my host club, the Rotary Club of Grimsby that I'm now part of, chose me to be their exchange student. So then we had to go to a district level where I was questioned, my parents were questioned. After that, I was given the okay and I was able to go away to Australia for a year. The highlights, the entire year. It was the best year of my life. It changed me. You know, you're not only there in another country learning their culture, but you're also there with students from all over the world. So we would travel and have Rotary weekends together, and it wasn't just, you know, me, the Canadian, it was, you know, the girl from Taiwan, the first colored exchange student from South Africa was there when I was there. There were people from the Netherlands, Finland, everywhere. So it opened you up to the entire world. So that was the best thing I got out of Rotary.
When did you learn you were going to Australia? How far into the process?
It was probably, and the funny thing is, I would have gone anywhere. I would have been happy to go anywhere. But they brought us into an auditorium a couple of months after that. I think it was a couple of months after the one interview. And they called our name. We stood up and they told us where we were going. And the first person stood up and they said, Bolivia. And their face just dropped. And I thought, what's wrong with Bolivia? I'd go anywhere. But when I was called and said Australia, I was extremely excited. It was actually my third choice, but I mean, I've actually just returned there not long, just before the pandemic, to visit and see my original host parents and host sibling and the Rotary Club. They picked me up at the airport, like they just treated me like gold. So really does feel like a second home even 40 years later.
So that was the first step into Rotary.
Yes.
When did the second one come about, and how did it come about?
So years later, I'm curling. I've become a curler, and I'm curling against the Rotary team. It's 4 Rotarians, and we're chit-chatting, and I'm telling them about my exchange and how much I appreciate Rotarians and what they do and how it meant so much to me. The next day, I get a phone call. How would you like to speak with our club? And I said, I would love to. It was like a thank you speech to them. So I went and spoke to the club, and then I got another phone call from Al Dyson, he used to be the pharmacist in town, asking if he could sponsor me to become a Rotarian. And I mean, I didn't even think about it. I was so moved to be asked to join the club.
Great. And you've been the president of your club?
I have been the president of my club. I've been the treasurer of the club. I'm the youth exchange officer now. So
what do you think was the highlight of your year when you were president, do you think?
The highlight, well, you know what? I was really big on the anti-bullying in the schools the year I was president, and I was able to get our club to raise money, and we had this project that used puppets and stuff, and they went into elementary schools, and they did all the schools in Grimsby. It was all an anti-bullying campaign to encourage kids and for kids to see what can happen if you bully. That was my highlight.
And what about new projects recently? What are you into?
What am I into? Well, I haven't been into too many new projects, although our club, we're very excited. Our club is looking into starting a satellite club, which is very exciting, something new and innovative for us. So we're excited about that.
Are there any other big projects that you'd like to tell everybody about that you've been happy about in terms of your club?
In terms of the club? Yeah. My personal club? What could I tell you about my personal clubs? I'm not sure what that means.
Fantasy of trees.
Oh gosh, yes. So every year we have we do the Fantasy of Trees, and different companies or individuals can sponsor trees. They decorate them, or they can have us decorate them. and then people can come in to see them for free. We usually we have over 40 trees, and we have wreaths and sign and auction items, and it's our big fundraiser every year. And at the end, they can win whatever tree they put tickets in for. They can win the tree and all the decorations. So it's a happy time. Everyone that comes in, the kids are just loving it. The older folks love to come and see all the trees. They're beautiful. And we have different themes. One year we had a Harry Potter tree that everyone went crazy for. So you never know what you're going to get.
Well, our association primarily has been through the district level.
Yes.
And you've been the area assistant governor for Area 5. Okay? So how did you get that job?
Everybody else said no. But before I start on that, Bob, you have been my mentor through these 3 years, and I want to thank you. I'm really touched that you're here today because you have been consistent throughout my 3 years, and it's meant a lot to me. You're always there, so thank you.
Thank you. Well, consistency is something that you're pretty good at too.
So yeah, it's been great. It's been great to actually go to all the other clubs, meet the members, and see exactly what they're involved with, and be able to participate when they do something special. So that's really meant a lot to me. So but basically, yes, the past assistant district governor asked me to do it, and it was Marg Andrews, and you just never say no to Marg Andrews. So that's how I had ended up with me.
Well, I consider it to be the best job in Rotary, actually.
Yeah, it is a good job.
You get to know so many people and the other clubs.
Yes.
And you get to know a different perspective compared to your own club, because every club has its own culture.
And I love our meetings. We have assistant district governor meetings, Zoom calls with all the assistant district governors, and you learn so much, sometimes too much, but you learn so much about all the different areas, what they're doing, how they're handling things. That's probably one of my favorite things, actually.
Good. Thank you.
Perfect. Did you talk about First Air Club?
No, I didn't.
Why don't you ask her, Bob?
Something else I do
What else does she do
for the
her spare
community.
time with you?
Okay. All right. Now, I know you're also involved in other areas in the community. Can you tell us more a little bit about that in your non-Rotarian?
In my non-Rotarian, as even before actually I became a Rotarian, I've been involved with a nonprofit organization called the Fresh Air Fund. They've been running since 1877. They're out of New York City, and what they do is they send inner city kids to different homes all around the U.S., and Southern Ontario is the one Canadian stop. So we interview families. We get families that want to host these kids for a couple of weeks. And then I actually also involved in going down, picking them up. We have a bus that brings them back. The families meet them at the bus, and then I check in on them throughout the 2 weeks, make sure everything's okay. The kids are age 7 to 12 for a first-time visit, but they can keep coming back to the same family until they're 18. So I have hosted 2 different kids, and sometimes because the one was getting older and aging out, and then he moved to Atlanta, but for a while there I had both of them at the same time in our home, which was wonderful. And it's just the best experience, but great for my kids and great for us. So that's something I'm very passionate about, and I'm chairperson for Grimsby for that. So I look after any of the kids coming to Grimsby. And
do they all come from New York?
Yes, they're all inner city kids in New York. So they have to be from the boroughs. They have to meet a financial component. So they have to be on some kind of assistance. That's one of the mandatory qualifications. So.
Well, it's all about building. Sounds like it's all about building relationships.
Yes.
Which is really one of the strengths that you have and which you've shown in Rotary. So I think there's crossover in there.
Yes. Yeah. No, it definitely is, and I absolutely love it. You know, when I first saw that these kids were coming, I had to wait. Back then, you had to be 6 to come. So I waited till my son was 6, my oldest, and that's when I started hosting. So yeah, it's been like 20. It's been a long time. It's been over 20 years. So.
And how many have you hosted again?
2. I've personally hosted 2, but I mean I've been very involved with so many of them. So, yeah.
And they come in the summer, July, August?
Yes. We have a trip in July and a trip in August.
Good. 2 weeks each time?
Sometimes 10 days, 2 weeks, depends on what we can get.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's a great project.
Well, it's something that you've done for the community as well as working with the Rotary community.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.